If this episode resonated, please share it with another mum who might need it. Follow us on socials at Burnt Out Mummas.
Check out our journey and we will help you to reconnect with yourself again. Please subscribe and download to all our episodes. It helps us a ton and keeps this podcast going.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday and welcome back to Burnt Out Mummas. So today's episode is such a lovely one because I think so many mums are craving this conversation right now, aren't they, Paisley?
Definitely. It's a good one.
It's a really good one. And we're joined by the amazing Alice and Betty from Alice in Natureland.
Hello. I love the name.
We love it. So Alice and Betty are nature educators and content creators, and it's all about reconnecting children with nature, imagination, and a slower living. So honestly, I feel like her content feels like a breath of fresh air in a world that can feel very overstimulated for children right now and overwhelming.
I think this conversation is so needed, actually, because modern parenting can feel so intense right now. We've got screens, routines, pressure, comparison, overstimulation, and sometimes it feels like children are growing up too fast. So today we just wanted to have a really honest conversation around childhood, motherhood, nature balance, and slowing things down a bit. Over to you guys. Did you want to introduce yourself a bit more?
What a brilliant introduction. Hello. Yes, I'm Alice. I'm Betty. We might sound quite similar, but we are different. I wonder if you can tell the difference in our voice. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, and we are Alice in Natureland. We're nature obsessed, both of us. We're sisters, and we've channeled that into Alice in Natureland, which is a series teaching children all about the amazing world of nature, children and their families, about nature, how to connect them back to recognising they're part of nature, get as obsessed about it as we are, and then hopefully get excited and have the confidence to explore it and look after it too. So,
and not forgetting the sidekicks, Olga and Arik. Olga is a slug and Arik is a spider, and I voice both of them, and it's super duper fun and such an adventure so far.
I love it. How did you come up?
How did we come up with this?
Yeah.
How do we come up with this? Great question. So I have always been obsessed with nature, and I was a journalist. I trained as a journalist, a multimedia journalist, and then from there I started working in wildlife conservation, realizing that in the conservation space there's a real space that's missing for good communicators. There's so many brilliant people doing lots of important work, but there's not the great communication link. And then after working in wildlife conservation and learning about how dire things really were, I then ended up teaching children about nature in schools. Children are the future, I believe.
Love that song.
Really great way of sort of connecting all those things. And then I got really lovely feedback from all of the teachers I worked with, and I often got the feedback, this should be on TV, you should do this on TV. And I was also always working in very wealthy schools around London, and at that same time our sister had a daughter called Poppy, and we had a nephew as well called Alfie a little bit later, and they live in a country where it's quite far away. They live in Saudi Arabia. They don't have the same access to nature that we do in this country, and so we sat down and had a chat and thought, how could we make this more accessible? How could we sort of help my sister with the create community, create a village, even though we're not there? And how can we make this learning that's quite restrictive accessible to a bigger, wider range of people and children, and have fun in the process, and use that is how it came about, really, realising the documentary making that I'd learned from university, the experience of working in wildlife conservation, and realising the important bits to talk about with nature that can really change the landscape, and then learning how kids absolutely love this kind of learning and they thrive from it, and then us bashing heads on how can we work together, because we're both nature obsessed, to make that possible. And Betty is also an artist, and an actor.
I actually think our mum was a huge part of how this was all created as well. So she's a little bit more camera shy, so you'd never catch her on a podcast. But she had this idea about Arik and Olga. It was her sort of her childhood's best friend, actually, that it came from the slug. And I have always done like nature, like paintings, and I've recently done one for David Attenborough's birthday, and it just sort of really organically came around. I don't know how we came up with the name Alice in Natureland, but I think we had like a massive whiteboard and we were writing down, we like did like a big bubble of like what could it be, and then we finally arrived at Alice in Natureland.
Great name.
It is a really great name, and it's like that. I think even with the name, it's taking children on an adventure through nature and understanding and learning all about it, which we feel is so important for the children, because like now, you know, we're consumed with screens and social media, and we talk about all the time, we're desperate for our children not to be in that, and it's very hard. You try to protect them, so I think this is like a really amazing thing.
Innocent way of educating, and it's not overstimulated. I love it because my children love David Attenborough and they love all the nature series.
Him. And oh my god, David Attenborough is 100 now.
He is. So it's a great time for you guys to come on, actually.
Yeah. He's a legend. Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head really there. There is no replacement for actual outdoor experiences. We should be getting children outside more. Absolutely. This is not an alternative to the outdoors, what we're making, and we're really clear on that. The point of Alice in Natureland is to take up space that's already been taken up. Your mum, so you know that screen time is a reality, particularly when you're on trains, buses, planes, you're in waiting rooms, you're in spaces where you often will end up giving your child a screen, and often what gets seen is things like Coco Lemon or Miss Rachel or Paw Patrol or other things that can be quite overstimulating, often not very good for children's development. And so we thought, well, how do we take this inspiration from this amazing man, David Attenborough? It's been his birthday recently, so really like that we can talk about him. He has famously said this quote that I'll read out that really is fundamental to sort of the things that we do, which is, if children don't grow up knowing about nature and appreciating it, they will not understand it. And if they don't understand it, they won't protect it. And if they don't protect it, who will? And I think, in the words of him, that's really what we started the programme with, the inspiration of that space. As I say, if it was taken up by something that doesn't just show them things, but shows them things that they can engage with, they can come away from this programme and go and find that slug that they met in that show and not be scared of spiders, because Arik is a spider and he's wonderful, the animated part of it. Or they can go out and they can do the activity that we learned. They can find some leaves and do some leaf bashing. They can build a habitat and see what animals are there when they go back. They can recognise that they are part of nature, and this whole web, they are included in. So what motivation to go outside and explore something you're part of than seeing someone I am so passionate about it. I hope that comes across.
I'm getting excited. I want to watch some more.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And actually going that on like the spiritual aspect of how grounding yourself in nature really grounds you as a person. I've been literally, like, over the few weekends, I've been taking my daughter on a field up to a swing on a tree, and they hated it at the first thing. We've got to walk this. And now she loves it so much. And I see them so happy. They roll on the grass. And I'm like, this is what childhood should be like. They should be in nature, not like, you know, and it makes me so happy. So I love you guys from the get-go, because I think your brand and what you're pushing out there to children is fantastic.
I mean, I'm mid-40s. So when I was younger, there was a lot more programs that were sort of around this, just a little bit more nature. So I love the fairy side, and I get them, like, even now I'm like, let's go in the garden and let's try and find some fairies. Then they're like, what the hell? But that's my imagination. And I try and get the little fairy boxes, and my daughter loves bugs. We get little bug boxes, and she loves to get her hands dirty. But it's so good to get the imagination going and relate it to something that we're part of, because our favourite film's Avatar, isn't it?
Oh,
we should look after the planet, really.
Well, if you just quickly, If you're obsessed with Avatar, have you seen Fern Gully?
No.
Fern Gully.
So
I've
Fern
read the
Gully-
book.
Fern
I've read
Gully
the
is-
book
Yeah, it's so. What was the book? You read the book?
years ago.
Did
Years
you?
ago, there was a book of
What, you read a
Fern
book?
Gully. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure
I
it
did.
was. I'm sure years and years ago. I remember it. Is
That's
it a
so
book as well?
random.
I
It's
don't
a
know
book
if
as
it's a
well.
book, but it's got
No, it is a book.
Is it?
It's a book that was made into a film, yeah.
And it's got
Yeah.
but the animation has Robin Williams voicing it, and for me, just it's basically Avatar, but like a much more simple version. And I highly recommend, if you haven't seen the animation, you definitely should. It's one that we were brought up with, and I think a lot of my love for nature came from that film.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll take a look.
Love that.
It's passion, isn't it? You know, you're passionate about your kids. You see your kids playing outside. You can see how joyful how joyful it is for them, and how they're sort of getting that escapism from the social media side of things, the online world, and the classroom. Which all of those things are fantastic things. You think about your own childhood and the things that brought you joy, or the things that made you learn. If you're neurospicy like we are. Some ADHD, dyslexia, some dyspraxia over here too, and probably some other things we're unaware of, then school can be a bit of a turbulent time, and learning is something that you thoroughly enjoy, but sometimes you need a different avenue to get to the same learning outcomes. And for me, passion bred passion. So your Fern Gully was a product of passion. The book saying your kids are someone, you love them and you want to see them thrive. For me, teachers that really loved what they were doing was so exciting. So I think we all have that innate passion for the outdoors and for nature because we're part of it, but we're competing against so many different things that are vying for our attention, that have got so much money funneled into them, that it's hardly surprising that the nature landscape doesn't get given as much space as it should be. But I think sometimes we have to remember who we're up against, these multi-million-dollar companies, corporations, and it really is about these real moments, the seeing your kids outside, the taking yourself for a break because you need one, the recognizing the value outside of. I wrote down actually today as a talking point, how many brands could you name versus could you name 10 brands, but can you name 10 mushrooms? Name 10 fungi versus 10 brands. And those brands, whatever 10 brands you are going to say, they don't contribute nearly as much to our lives as those 10 fungi do.
Yes.
Where are we putting our energy versus the reward? And
at school you went to, didn't Mum have to some of your homework was you had to
Yeah,
name all the flowers
yeah.
and the tree?
Piece of homework that
She was
so-
about 100. The head teacher, wasn't she,
our teacher
Mrs.
lived to our,
Routledge?
season. We had to go out in nature and find all different trees or leaves and things, and it was so fun. I really remember it as a project. And on this, we had like obviously a big cardboard thing, and we had to stick it all on and name it underneath. And for me, as a project at school, that was so fun.
Well, you're only
We
like
were
5, weren't you, in reception?
And I remember it so clearly. I remember getting so excited about this chestnut or this acorn that I was going to stick on the board, because it was just, and that we had to go out with our mum at the time and go for a walk and actually find this thing because it was our homework. So there was, I really have a lot to say for that, because I remember that it was a key memory of mine growing up. I loved doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
kids love it. I think for me that was really a penny drop moment, because I've spent almost a decade teaching kids about nature, specifically in schools, festivals and events around mostly London, but also outside of London. And what surprised me, well, not really, because we're not from London originally, but when it was, I think in some ways in the places I was working anyway, it's a misnomer that the kids, because they're city bound, would not know about nature, because there's so much knowledge from parents maybe that they don't have access in the same way others do. So they go out of their way to try and push that a bit more if possible. But actually, growing up around here, there are a lot of people that wouldn't know how to plant a vegetable, wouldn't know how to grow a plant.
Yeah, I think also, but like I said earlier, I do lots of like singing and dancing and yoga with children in central London, but also I covered another person who was slightly further afield, like more in Essex way, and Essex is surrounded by Epping Forest, so it's very, very leafy and green. And I've really noticed the difference in teaching and singing and entertaining children who are in the centre of London, and further, the difference is huge. Like the ones in the centre of London are so dysregulated, very focus is not there. But then you go out, and I remember being like, these children are so like, everything I was saying, doing, and sort of getting them to try and do, they would do very, very well, because they didn't seem so distracted by like the sort of pressure of the kind of like the huge buildings around them, and like they had like loads of forest around them, and I really feel like that made a huge difference in the
And I do agree with that.
Yeah,
that's really crazy when you think about that. That is,
you've taught
really
in a lot
crazy.
of schools, haven't you? Have you noticed the difference?
Yeah, I've taught in many different schools, very underprivileged schools, and privileged schools. I've taught in both. I've taught in London as well before, actually. But yeah, I do get exactly where you're coming from, and like for me to just step back and think about that, what you said is true.
Well, we're all as one, aren't we? Our nervous systems, the environment, nature. We are, I believe, all interlinked. And I think now we're sort of, with the teachings and all the information out there, we're learning more about our bodies, and especially this generation that's coming through, really into wellness. So I think with all of, what do you got, 83,000 followers? Is that right, on Instagram?
Yeah, roughly.
Is YouTube higher?
YouTube is new.
Yeah.
Instagram's been going for a little bit longer. YouTube is, I think, 1,200 at this point. Very excited, because honestly, even just one or two people watching it is so exciting.
We were so excited when we hit 100.
Yeah,
I know, that was like us. We're like, oh, we got 10 followers, and now the podcast is like the worldwide. So you just got to keep going. But it's just what I was leading on to was, it just shows you that there is a need for it, and people are really interested in what you're doing.
Totally. And you know what, we were talking about a competition, who you're vying for attention for before. Something that I did to try and grow the audience without paying for advertising initially, because we don't at the moment necessarily have a budget for what we're doing. We sort of
Advertising's crazy.
And so I was messaging people individually, mums that I was finding online, not only because you also, feedback is really hard on YouTube Kids. You can't get any feedback at all, the comment section, so you're reliant on people going out of their way to come and message you to tell you what they liked, what they don't like. And we're very much in our infancy, but we really just want this to get kids and their families obsessed with nature, and we want to make real change, tangible change with what we're doing. That's why we're pouring so much of our energy into it. That's why we're like willing to stay up really late and do ridiculous things to try and make it happen, because we want that to work. So what I've been doing is messaging individual mums that I've seen mention anything about wanting to spend time outside in nature online, or I found some Reddit pages where parents have been like, has anyone found an alternative to Miss Rachel, or something that's a bit less, a bit more to do with outdoors. And I've messaged them being like, hi, I'm Alice, I've been making this thing with my sister, I would love it if you checked it out. If you don't like it, let me know what you don't like about it, and we will change it so that it works better for what you need your child like to have. Let us know what gets them going. We want to make this work for you. And the feedback we received is lovely, and that's really nice, because sometimes it feels like you're shouting into the void, being like, have fun with us.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're exactly the same, from the same point.
It's only when the stats come through that we're like, okay, it's working.
Just talking to ourselves here? Is anyone actually listening to us?
Apart from your friends,
it's daunting.
Particularly when it's when viewer count is there, and yet, like you said, on these platforms that we're on, you can see the statistics, but it feels like you can't physically see them. But 2 days ago, we had a comment on our Facebook page, and Facebook page is totally organic. It doesn't have any of my friends or family necessarily on it. It's people that have found us through the channel, which is so exciting. And someone from Canada, sent a message saying, we watch this with our kids every day. And you can see online, and we love it, and you can see online that it's now been watched. It's being watched in 33 countries, from like England, the UK, America, and Canada, and India, and the Philippines are the top ones. But it's also being seen in Uzbekistan and Australia.
I know, it's so random, isn't it? When you look at the countries, you're like, okay.
So this is weird. What's one of ours in Texas or something?
We've got quite a lot in Utah. America's our second biggest audience.
Yeah.
They're actually catching up to where we are, but yeah, we're in 70 76 countries now, but some of them are so random.
Really
and you're like,
random. We're like, how did you find us?
Yeah.
What I want to go back to, sorry, as well, is why is outdoor play so important emotionally and mentally for children?
Great question. There are endless opportunities for learning outdoors through structured play, like some of the things that I've offered in schools and nurseries. That's something, but actually letting them play and explore and learn on their own outdoors, huge impacts. I have ADHD, for example. ADHD children, a 20-minute space, 20-minute walk has huge, profound impacts on their ability to concentrate, on their ability to self-regulate. That's an enormous part of the outdoors. It's a regulation pro, being outside and being and recognizing your space in nature. We've all experienced it as adults, but as kids you notice that much more acutely. That's really, really important. I've got some statistics down here which I think are worth sharing.
definitely.
Surprised me. The 3/4 of UK children spend less time outside than prison inmates, was a statistic that came out fairly recently. And we know that what a profound impact that has on prison inmates just being inside for a little bit of time. I think there's a tenuous link there, because obviously kids aren't treated the same as prison inmates are.
Well, you'd hope not.
Oh, you don't know, absolutely. And there's a lot more stimulation, lots of love and care for them indoors. But outside is just only 10% in the UK currently have access to outdoor learning, kids-wise. So those sorts of statistics that really take it home, how little time we spent in the outdoor space, and the learning, like Beth said, about how ever profound, just from a personal experience, how much of an impact you can see learning in an outdoor setting has on the kids that you're teaching. But in terms of just letting them play and explore, there's really no replacement for that experience.
But also there's a, do you know the Steiner schools?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Steiner schools have a lot of sort of outside work. Like, they don't necessarily always confine themselves to the inside space. And every single person that I've met who were from the Steiner school seems so much more calm and one with actually who they are, because they were like, just, they're led by what they're naturally more akin to, rather than everybody must open the same book at the same page.
Yes.
And read the same stuff and give us the right answer that we've already pre-predicted. And I think a lot of nature is just exploring and getting mucky and getting a little bit wet, if you will. And I think a lot of the time parents are the ones that are like, oh no, it's raining, we can't go out, just in case you get a cold, or if you can, just in case like something goes wrong, or you don't have a second pair of trousers. And I get it, I get the whole thing, because I've been in that situation looking after my niece and nephew. You do have the fear that you haven't got enough nappies, or you haven't got enough socks to keep them warm. But I think it's more important to sort of mess it up and not worry so much if you've got a little bit of dirt on your trousers.
Actually, there's a scientific proof towards that. So in Iceland, they go out in -30 and they put all of their snowsuits on, and they're encouraged to play with the ice, the nature there. Biologically as well, they want them to play with the mud or the nature, because it builds bacteria. And I don't think any of their children have colds, coughs. I saw this on a Louis Theroux documentary actually just at the weekend. That's why it's on the top of my head. And it says it boosts their immune system. So
in other countries, they leave the baby to sleep outside. So they can learn to self-regulate their body temperature. And it was really weird, actually. I was changing my baby's nappy the other day, and I was like, God, I'm so cold. But really, we're born from the nature. We're meant to be in nature, in the caveman time.
We
wouldn't have anything.
That's a key distinction that I think is really important, that we're really trying to change with this series, is making sure that children and their families, and that's the key thing here, from something that really inspired me from teaching children in person, was the amount of time teachers and parents would come up to me afterwards and say, I actually really learned something.
Yeah.
And Beth says it because I've got more of an academic experience of nature that guides the way that we structure the programme. And Beth's come up and says, is that real? Yeah. Like worm grunting, getting the worms out of the soil through pushing a stick up and down on another stick to get the worms coming out. That's magic, but it's not, it's nature. And we're part of it. And the seasonal experience of going outside. I want to
Do you know what
re-answer.
she's talking about when she says worm grunting?
No, I was just like, yeah, what is that?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so worm grunting. So in every episode of Alice in Natureland, we do several things. So we make sure that it's engaging as possible by obviously platforming real nature, but also doing games, experiments, activities, songs, all of that fun stuff. And one of the activities that we did for our earthworms episode was we went out with a stick and we put the stick in the ground, put little holes in the stick, and then rubbed another stick up and down that other stick. And what happens is that sends vibrations through the soil. And it's thought, although it's not conclusive, that the worms think that it's raining, and worms have to have mucus covered bodies because they breathe through their head, through their bottom, through their whole body. They've got little holes all over them that allow them to breathe, and they need to stay wet. So they come up to the surface of the soil when they think it's safe to do so, when it's raining, for example. And that worm grunting then encourages the worms to come up to the top of the soil. So you just by doing that, suddenly you're surrounded by worms. No, it doesn't work all the time. You have to do it in different locations. But it's amazing when it does work, when a worm comes up to the soil. So that's what Bet's talking.
But also I did try and do it, but you can't really do it with a dog because my dog was just trying to bite the stick. So it's just like this on the stick.
What degree did you study?
Uh,
Yes, yeah. Was it related to nature?
No, it was related to storytelling. So I did a multimedia journalism course. So you have to be a jack of all trades and a master of none in those in some ways. So
I love it though. You've used it
through TV, through online, through writing, through audio as well, like this. But I did just want to re-answer a question because I don't think I answered it well enough, and I think it's really important. So you asked a question about, but also just actually to go back, sorry to move so much, but I learned mostly through working for a conservation organisation called ZSL. So I worked for them for about 6 years, and you learn as part of that, I was part of the team actually producing something called the Living Planet Report, which is a report that's put out by WWF and ZSL, and it tells you about the state of nature. So I was part of the team that was distributing the news that unfortunately between 1970 and now we've seen global biodiversity decline of species by 72%. So, and that's huge. And that tells you about the state of nature, really quite scary. And in this country, you know, we're in the 10% most depleted nature countries. The UK is one of the most depleted nature countries. The UK is one of the most nature depleted countries. There you go. That's the sentence I'm trying to say. And so all of that together is what I learned, but mostly through that, and then how you can do things to change that, both as an individual and mostly as a collective. So you need kids, you need parents, you need their friends to all get involved in trying to make change that makes all of our lives better. But on the note of what you said with why should children be spending more time outside, why is that important? As you touched on, there's so much evidence for why that is essential for children's development, and there's so many examples of what happens when that goes wrong. So as I mentioned, we know that outdoor learning is only accessible to 10% of children in the UK, supposedly, according to statistics that were released at the same time as Liz Truss. So that might and hopefully has changed since then somewhat. But and what has been coined as nature deficit disorder is something that can happen if children don't spend, and people actually don't interact with nature very much. So I'm starting with the negative because I'm going to go to the positive in a minute. So nature deficit disorder, it can lead to diminished use of the senses, difficult conditions of obesity, higher rates of emotional and physical illness and dysregulation. It weakens ecological literacy, which makes sense, and stewardship of the natural world, so it makes it less likely kids are going to be able to change things for themselves in the future. So not being able to have that outdoor time is huge. As I said, 20 minutes walking outdoors studies have shown repeatedly improves children's concentration. That's huge and important. The Wetland Centre, WWT, amazing group doing loads of great stuff with kids, talked about how children from poorer backgrounds are less interested in being outdoors in nature, they're better off children, but that was overcome after just one day spent learning outside. So showing just how much of an impact being outdoors can have on children's perspective on so many things. And then finally, and this is something I'm really passionate about, sensory-led learning is so helpful for kids, and children learn so much about the world by being outside and using their senses. But from a well-being perspective, which you both seem really interested in, and I think we all want our children to be happy, in independent individuals that grow up loving and thriving. And there's something called the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which is a group of things that people who have, a survey was done of people, happy people who would identify themselves as happy and leading happy lives. And there was a pattern, and these 5 things were patterned in those people. And those were repeatedly connecting, so nurturing relationships. That's very relevant to nature because we are nature. So understanding that when we go outside, we have to wear a jacket or a jumper when it's cold because it's winter, and we need to change the way we behave because we are part of nature, and we need to react accordingly. Otherwise we'll get sick because we are part of nature. Understanding that in the springtime we need to plant seeds because then we can grow food that we can eat. We're part of nature. We're connecting to nature and understanding we're part of it is a big part. Second one is be active. So connect, then be active, move the body. You can use so much space when you're outside. We always talk about use your outdoor voice. One of my favorite things about this program is being able to like run from one side to the camera, run to the other side of the camera, do a roly-poly.
It's great.
Be silly. Like adults, parents, we need to be a bit more silly, but outdoors really allows for that. Taking notice is another thing. Not just using your body, obviously that's important. Taking notice, you can notice how things change. So something I'm using on our social platform at the moment is 3 things to look out for in nature at the moment that you can watch change, so kids can see. It's exciting because they can do it independently. Building that independence, that resilience is important, and that's what being outside does. You notice those changes, you act accordingly, you learn how to plan. Kids need that. They see a tree has something that looks a bit like a flower in it. The next time they see it, there's a bee flying around it. Then a few weeks' time after that, you see there's fruit growing. You watch those changes, you understand how important nature is. That's so, so important. And how it changes like you do. Keeping on learning is a big part of that as well. So we all love learning. Kids love learning. Endless opportunities to learn in nature. Even if that's, I found a animal like a fox and it went to bite me because I got too close. Hopefully it doesn't bite you. There should be parrots around in those scenarios. But you learn like things like that. If I didn't wear the right clothes, I learned that I should do that differently next time. And the last one is giving, which is abundant in nature. Nature works in reciprocity with us humans. If we plant a seed and we give it what it needs, it grows, and we can eat the plants that we get to. After we look after nature, it gives back to us in that way. If we give food for bees, we're able to eat food too. It's those 5 ways to well-being. There are so many reasons, but that's a great starting point.
That's amazing.
Love it. I think that summed up everything we wanted to ask you. So
I just want to, sum up the podcast because it's been so interesting and hopefully so valuable for parents, because it has been really valuable for us. What would you recommend, as for parents who are not outsidey people, or some people don't like to just go outside, or they don't like to go on walks, and I feel like, God, you're missing out. But how would you start it, making it fun, and what would be your perspective on encouraging people? How would you tell them to start?
I think it's such a great question, and we're the perfect pair to answer that, really, because as much as Betty has always loved nature, she's never going to hold a slug voluntarily. So get me in there. So maybe I feel like I've talked a lot. Bet, do you want to take on this, and I'll jump off?
No,
I'll pass you the mushroom microphone if you're listening.
Time. So something springs to mind with Poppy, our niece, is 4, nearly 5 next month, month after. She basically loves nature, all because of Alice and me sometimes.
Definitely, pick yourself up, thank you.
Let me finish. Sometimes you can't stop your older sister from being in charge.
I love it.
She loves nature, absolutely loves it, and she will often be like, Auntie Betty, can you pick it up? And it's like this big, gross, squidgy, slimy slug covered in dirt, and I'm like, and I've got nails, but I've got really nice nails, and I normally have myself quite like this, and I'll be like, no, I don't want to, I'm not really, why don't we do it with a stick? And so instead of picking it up with my hands, I will, much to my family's entertainment, I will sort of wiggle 2 pieces of leaves in between both hands, and I'll scoop it up with the leaves instead of using my hands. And I think these 2 characters, Arik and Olga, are very much 2 facets of my personality, unintentionally. But Olga is this big, cuddly, friendly slug who just loves a cuddle, but she's a slug and she doesn't have any arms, and she's always eating poo. Not that I eat poo, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she's just very, very like in your face, loving, cuddly. And then we've got Arik, who is a gangly spider who is incredibly disgusted by the fact that Olga loves poo and can't touch mud and doesn't want to be in the puddle and is very grossed out by everything. And I think it's like very much human to be on both ends of that spectrum. And so if you are one of these people who don't like to get your hands dirty, bring gloves. If you don't like being wet, bring an umbrella. It's quite simple if you put it in that way. But I am that person who doesn't like to get in the mud and jump around in the puddles, but I'm the biggest cheerleader to my niece and nephew doing that. And if sometimes there's a bit of mud on me, then I just let it be and I wash my clothes, because the cool thing is we're
Exactly.
so I think it's just like leaning with curiosity as the adult who may not like it, but you know, it's fun. And for your kids, that's I think that's what you need to put in front of everything, is maybe just do it once or twice a week for your child, and just do it slowly but surely. And then
I would
I
say
remember-
once a week if you can. As much as you possibly can.
Every day try and get out, or like
Absolutely. You can spend the majority of your home time outdoors. Wonderful. What a joy. If you can.
I know.
How much happier do you feel in summer when you're out in the garden all the time?
I'm gonna
How
do it.
happy are the children as well?
Yeah.
But also, I think that I think it's really what I would love to push is that this is about your kids, obviously, because you're making little humans that need to protect the world and want to live in a happy, healthy world. So obviously, the priority is kids. But you know, you're burnt out mummas. You're about talking about how to get mums to feel a little less burnt out and acknowledge they are part of this too. And what a fun learning journey you can go on to learn about some of these things. There's practical apps that you can use that can help you gain nature literacy if you're a bit uncomfortable about that. A really great one that I would recommend is Merlin Bird ID. No one's paying me for this. I'm just telling you, it's a great resource. You can use your phone and listen to birds, and then you can pick up on ones, and then you can go outside and be like, oh, do you hear that? The chiff chaff's calling. And then once you've got the and you can look up what that chiff chaff is. That chiff chaff comes all the way over from North Africa and has gone on a massive migration journey to get here. You can hear about that. You can hear how the stories might build in. But that's a great starting block.
But also we have got worksheets that come with every single YouTube story.
Yeah.
So every time that you watch something on Alice in Natureland, there's like a little PDF that you can download, and it normally has some sort of thing that you can do in nature.
It's an activity sheet. Yeah, it's an activity sheet. It's a detailed activity sheet, actually. So it's a way of you encouraging parents and caregivers to take that learning away from a computer screen and then print off the activity sheets. Oh, we listened to this when we were in the car. How do we apply what we learned? Let's go and do some of the activities that Alice has suggested here. So there's loads of different things on there that you can do. They're all sensory based. They're a guide, basically, for exactly the scenario you're talking about. Parents who are a little bit uncomfortable, but outside. And then also, I think, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I was just getting so excited because I can see you two in the future with a Spotify channel at night, because I put on stories at night time for my children. I'd love to listen to you two, so the next day they can go out and get excited, use their imagination. I can see you on a children's TV show, like having a series or like a little mini film, you get at Christmas, what's that, Julia Donaldson, something like that. I can see you two.
Need to go in that direction, because I want the next day, and I said this to my partner when I found out David Attenborough was 100 years old, and I said, this is what I said to my husband. I said, this man is so incredible. He's changed the world, because we could have been in a very much dying nation, and there needs to be the next generation of people to take over he's doing.
And females,
we love it. Come on. So, girls, we're waiting for you. And we're so glad you firstly come on our podcast.
Yeah, it's your first podcast.
Don't forget
Thank
about
you.
us either.
We were so nervous coming on today, but you've made us feel very welcome, and it's been.
No,
really
you're amazing. We're very excited about your future, because I'm very excited that this needs to be out there, like 100%. This needs to be all over. And actually, going back to you saying about worksheets and stuff, sometimes I have gone out and I'm thinking, oh, what should I do with Iona? Because I need something for her to do when she's walking outside. Because sometimes, you know what kids are like a toddler, my legs are aching, I'm bored. But if you've got something while you're walking for them to focus on, and maybe this is also a bit of feedback for you guys, like, on that walk, I want you to, and this is something I've done, right, fine, go and find me 10 different leaves, like that keeps them occupied on that walk, and it also is teaching them stuff. So I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I think, you know, them activity sheets I will definitely download, because I didn't know you did that, so that's really exciting for when we go on walks and stuff.
Yeah, so I know that, sorry, I interrupted you. What was the what you wanted to say before we sign off?
3 things, so many things. If you need to stop me, let me know. But I think enthusiasm has so much clout. So if you're a parent that is not excited about being outside, I need you to give yourself a little shake it off.
Shake it off.
Give yourself a moment, take a big breath in and a big breath out.
I do this often.
And realize that whatever you're doing, you're imprinting that on your child. If you see a spider, that spider is so important to our environment. If we go outside and we make kids feel phobic out of the outside and not feel that sense of biophilia where they get obsessed with outside and want to and understand their place in it and recognize how important things are. They can't know the really scary statistics that I mentioned before, like,
which we won't mention again.
Yeah, like, you know, all the bits that should motivate us to want to have a better world. They are a great starting block to change your own mind on what we can do as individuals as well. I think that's a really, really great thing. And another nature resource I would just say is there's a few picture this, and you also mentioned another one.
Picture this? What?
Yeah, where you can take a picture with your phone.
Oh, Google Glass as well. If you don't know what something is, you just Google Glass it and you just take a picture, and then it will come up with all the sort of possible flowers or plants or whatever it could be.
Good.
On Google phones, I think.
Yeah, and also connecting with other mums or other parents, if you're a dad, like other communities that are going on walks or are going to go to a festival. There's a great festival called All Things Funky Festival, for example, where they do a completely free kids day. So it doesn't need, where you can go to this festival and explore, and it's amazing and great, and learn about this amazing part of nature. There's so many free resources and other people who want to do this too, that if you're a newbie and you're not 100% confident, there's forums where you can meet other people that are, there's nature is so abundant, there's nobody that doesn't have something to say about it, and there's lots of platforms you can explore more from that perspective. And also, obviously, let us know if there's anything that we can do that can better improve the likelihood of your child doing that. If you send us a message and say, my son George doesn't like to go outside because he doesn't like getting wet, we will make sure in an episode to talk about that and make it a fun thing that if George watches it, hopefully it will make it more likely he'll get over it. So we can help you if you want us to. We can do our absolute very best to form what we're making.
Yeah, and also every single opportunity at the end of our shows, we always try and put pictures of the children in nature. The more the merrier, and thinking of the people who don't like getting dirty and don't like, you know, jumping in head first with the sort of nature side of things. If your child does enjoy it, to like shine a bright light on that by sending that to us, and then they might see themselves in this space which is all about like the passion for nature, and that will inherently kind of feed that desire to, you know, love nature in the world that we live in.
Yeah, and we can
amazing.
We've got even Sadie and Iona. Sadie is definitely the slug and Iona's the spider. Doesn't want to touch anything. She will literally jump in mud.
She loves it. Yeah.
It's so good. Oh, girls, thank you so much for coming
so
on.
much.
You've been amazing and very inspiring, and I wish you all the luck for your journey, because I really want you girls to be out there and, you know, teaching our children, because you're making a very significant, like, you know, force on the movement of nature. So yeah, well done to you two, because you're so great.
Thank you. And where can our listeners find you? Let's remind everybody of your YouTube channel and Instagram.
Absolutely. So our Instagram channel is Happy Alice in Natureland, but the show, if you want to watch the show, it's Alice in Natureland on YouTube. You can contact us directly through the Instagram, or you can watch the show on the YouTube account. And we've got all of our details on there. So Paisley and Isla recommended that we sort of suggested workshops and things like that, or made us think about maybe doing workshops and offering birthday party bits and pieces. So we watch this space. If you want to get in touch with us, go through those channels, and we might be able to offer you lots of different things. So, but
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Honestly, thank you.
Thank you. And to all our listeners out there, if you love this episode, make sure you follow, subscribe, and share with anybody else that is interested in the subjects we're talking about and for our children, because the main point you said right at the beginning, Alice and Betty, is children are our future. And I think that's a very important point to close the podcast on today. The children are our future. And we want to get into that song now.
Have a lovely day, and
Thanks,
we'll be watching.
girls. Yeah, thank you.
Bye, lovely to talk to you.
If you're loving the show, don't forget to download our latest episodes. It helps us a ton by boosting the show and making sure more people find us.
Plus, you can listen anytime, anywhere, even offline.
And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Spotify so you never miss a new drop.
Want even more behind-the-scenes content? Follow us on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok at Burnt Out Mummas, one word, for exclusive clips, updates and fun extras.
Hit that follow button, send us a message, and let's keep the Burnt Out Mummas community going.